So I thought of what topic should I put, but I thought I should talk about the relevance of nutrition, third world to research agenda in developing countries. And one of the beneficiaries, myself here. So I thought of saying there's undisputable testimonies that will be given by many beneficiaries of nutrition in third world, as it was presented in its 35 years of operations, and the role it has played to individual, professional, scientific, and personal development. There's so many testimonies, and of course we've had some testimonies, and we are still continuing to have these testimonies. So as I also thought, if the whole list of beneficiaries was available in this meeting, with a tracer study done on how far they've gone on the professional career, you'll agree with me why NTM deserves great appreciation. So here I am, of the many individuals, to give that testimony on how the research grant from NTM contributed to what I am now. So my research title was the influence of complementary food on growth and iron status of infants aged 6 to 12 months in Kilosa district in Tanzania. And it was a double-blind controlled placebo trial. And what was done in shortly, briefly, an optimized complementary food for infants was formulated at the University of Ghent with a colleague from Kenya, Stephen Bithi, based on food crops that was cultivated by most African countries, and this was for sustainability reasons. And these were finger millets. I don't know if Martin has already investigated on this mycotoxins because his reports are shocking. Finger millet, the other was beans, and of course peanuts and mangoes. This was the optimized formulation. We came with those particular proportions. So the formula was fed to 309 children or infants who had reached 6 months old, and we did it for a duration of 6 months for each child. And the whole study took about 2 years. And my promoters, again, I didn't put the pictures, were Patrick Colston and John Van Kamp, okay? So in brief, the results showed a difference between the intervention children and the placebo, although not statistically different at 6 months of feeding in terms of the variables we're investigating, okay? But we went on with my promoters, and we went to North Africa, went to Cameroon, to present in the scientific conferences. And presenting the results at various conferences, experts at that time, I remember Professor Rosalind Gibson from University of Otago. She was there in the meeting. And she advised us that because it's a food-based intervention, we went for 6 months. But of course, she said, with a food, because these are, of course, she's a guru in that particular area, and she told us in that particular meeting that if we would have gone to a minimum of 9 months, then we would have got a clear difference, and it would have been statistically different to the two groups. And Professor John Van Kamp was looking at me and said, would you go back to the field? I said, let me finish my PhD first, and then I'll go and do it. So this formulation has been widely adapted by communities within and outside the research area. And of course, we have our Sokoine University radio and TV programs where we air our programs, including this formulation, but the programs within the Department of Food Technology, Nutrition, and Consumer Sciences at Sokoine University. So we have been promoting this formulation. That's why many have taken it over. So this research promoted me so much. As you know, this kind of studies involving communities and long feeding durations are done by fairly big projects. You must agree with me because they use they are relatively costly, and of course, in terms of finances, and of course, the infrastructure. So these kind of studies are done, by very few individuals. So the experiences and skills and challenges I got in implementing this particular research were tremendous. Okay, for me, which shaped my focus on community researches. And in terms of researches which we were doing at SUA, which I'll give some examples, you cannot miss me in those particular teams because of the experience I got from this particular research. So this particular research, I should say for sure, it laid foundation of similar kind of researches we undertook at Sokoine University of Agriculture in collaboration with our colleagues, and of course institutions, and of course other countries. I have some examples to give on the projects which we wrote with my colleagues at SUA, and of course implemented. And of course some of these projects were called to assist in implementation. So here are a few examples. We started immediately just after, because my PhD ended up in 2003, and of course in 2004 we had the nutrient content in of the African traditional bean dishes. This study was promoting bean consumption. It was funded by Asareka. And this was 2004, 2006, and we were able to train 6 master students because we had the capacity building. And of course, we went on developing this is another project, interventions for improved health and productivity in Tanzania, and our program of agriculture and natural resources information for improved livelihood. And this was funded by the Royal Norwegian government. It was a collaborative program between Sokoine University and, of course, some institutions in Norway, as the University of Life Sciences and, of course, Norwegian College of Veterinary. This was 2006 to 2010. We were able to, on the Tanzanian side, to train 4 MSc students. Another project we wrote is on food security, adequate care, and environmental quality, development and testing of eco-nutrition guidelines for community actions in the context of climate change project. This was funded by IDRC, and this was 2010, 2014. It was collaborative research. Tanzania and colleagues from Malawi, and we were able to get out 2 PhDs and 3 MSc students. And of course, we had another one which was funded by USAID, from soil elements to food nutrients, improving the nutrient content of food for human consumption through agriculture. Okay, this was the link between soil elements, agricultural practice, nutrient content, and nutrition. As I said, it was funded by USAID through Innovative Agricultural Research Initiative. And this was an institution in Tanzania, SUA, and US. Another one, which was just finished recently, the agricultural to nutrition. In short, it was called TONU. That was improving nutrition outcomes through optimized agricultural investment project. And the concept in this particular project was that any agricultural livestock program can have positive nutrition outcomes, because mostly they end up if it is an agricultural project, they end up, improving production, improving livestock production, but there is another level which you have to go, because at the end of the day, these products have to be consumed, and therefore they have to contribute to the well-being of the consumers of this particular project. So we were investigating on that, and we have produced in this particular all projects. We have produced a number of international peer-reviewed journals and in each project. But also you remember, SUA team was part of the implementation of sustainable nutrition research for Africa. This is Sunray for years to come, and it was funded by EU. I think you know it has been presented already, where several papers were also presented. But also from the projects, but also we're concerned with, from that experience, we've done a lot of consultancies. And these are just a few of them. Training on proper tool. This was a tool to improve infant and young child feeding. We trained about 15 Tanzanian colleagues and tested the tools in Zanzibar. Okay. We also went, two of us, me and Professor Kinabo, to Namibia to continue training this particular tool for the Ministry of Health in that particular country, and we managed to train 30 of them, okay, in using this particular tool. And this was also funded by UNICEF. So our team was responsible to prepare and conduct, we are still working on that, 2-week SADC short course on nutrition assessment and surveillance. And this we did from 2012 and 2015. And this is because of the competence of SUA in nutrition area. And that's why they used us. So it was 2015 to 2014, and it was funded by UNICEF and government of Tanzania partly, and managed to reach 40 nutrition officers. SUA team is currently involved in project on development of food-based dietary guidelines. It is currently going on for Tanzania mainland. We have done for Zanzibar. We are also doing it for Rwanda, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Eswatini. Now is formerly it was Botswana. Now it has changed name to Eswatini, if you don't know. Then the funding was from FAO, and SUA team was implementing it. And then SUA team is also currently involved in investigating on food outlets and green spaces, they call it, in the Dar es Salaam city to aid proper planning of the municipal council because the city, is fast growing now. So they needed some help in that, and this is funded by FAO. So we have. We also we have up to now, because we are at the university, we have a program of human nutrition, BSc, MSc level, and PhD. So we have imparted skills and knowledge in research, write-up, and implementation for nutrition students at SUA, close to 550 BSc students and 200 MSc students, and some PhDs. So. As you can see, there's so many contributions from the experience I got from just doing the research with the NTM, which was funded by NTM on what we did on community nutrition research. So what I'm saying, there is there are numerous nutritional problems to be addressed in Africa and actually elsewhere in developing countries. There are so many, they are numerous. If we list them here, they are numerous. And some, the same from the same countries, some are different depending on the area. So we have, however, have researchers who have great ideas in solving these problems, both in areas of applied research and non-applied research. The big constraint is that, as my colleague presented, the finances, the financial resources, and of course the other paraphernalia which is involved, the infrastructure, is also a problem. You might have a good idea, but now to implement it, you need all these particular resources. If they are not available, then it is difficult to continue with the idea you had, although how great was it? So in conclusion, I would say the extra money provided by NTM really, for my research, was a way to find more money and allowed us to write other projects which has assisted so many other colleagues. And that is the spirit which we should go on. You don't have to be selfish. You write something and you assist others who are still in need. Hence, it is not only me who benefited, but several other colleagues, as I presented with regard to the projects some of the projects which were written and implemented in my area or at the university. Okay, so Nutrition Third World has helped many of us who, if not, we wouldn't have made it. And hence, would like to take this opportunity to thank Nutrition Third World for the job well done. I appeal to the government of Belgium and other donors to continue support NTM, as it has done wonders to many of us. Of course, I'm standing here because of Nutrition Third World, okay? I'm an example myself. So many are still, I can say many are still on the waiting list. Please assist. On the other note, of course, this is out of the scientific world, okay? So sometimes you have to, in forum like this, then you have to really advertise your country. Tanzania is a very beautiful country. So I would like to take this opportunity, because I've been given this opportunity, to welcome you to Tanzania. And Tanzania, they say it is the land of Kilimanjaro. Okay, you see how beautiful it is? And it's the land of Serengeti. This is the biggest national park, where you have the migration of animals, the wildebeest, okay? And so these are just a segment of it, okay? So you can see all the animals. Come to Tanzania, please. It's only Tanzania which have this. And the Ngorongoro crater, this is one of the 7 wonders of the world. Come and see it, please. So Tanzania is also the land of Zanzibar. So you have the 2 islands and the town of Zanzibar. Please come and enjoy.
So one of my questions is, one of the main constraints you said that you have, obviously, is the financial resources. So what do you think would aid your scientists the most and trainees the most in attaining this, like grants writing skills, or just the collaborations and connections, or how do you see this for your future in your institution to help bring these opportunities? Because clearly you're doing some great work. So.
Okay, thank you for that good question. Of course, I had some ideas in my mind. As my colleague presented, you see all the funding, most of the funding is coming from the North or some other development partners. And the way you saw even my presentation is UNICEF, FAO. Maybe one was on government of Tanzania, but partly with UNICEF. But what I think we should do so that we might have funding, especially local fundings, because those are the ones which may be sustainable. I would suggest that we sensitize, especially the political leaders. Because as my colleague from Ghana, he showed all the pictures with all the politicians, but these are not sensitized. And the way, I think nutrition as a discipline has been on, it was uphill struggle. to try and explain what is actually nutrition and the benefits of nutrition to such guys as politicians. They take nutrition as, well, you've eaten, that is okay for nutrition. But actually there's more than that, which of course to them, they don't really understand. So we think we have to really struggle and sensitize the leaders, the political leaders and the decision makers on why nutrition is important, so that they also allocate a budget for that. In Tanzania, last time we had a president who was really for nutrition, somebody, Jakaya Kikwete. You could tell him about nutrition. Of course, he understood it very well, and he was one of the pioneer presidents. The current president is very good in, in his area of jurisdiction now. It's really funding a lot of development projects now. Well, we want to maybe, I don't know if we can have the audience with him to discuss about nutrition. He's very busy on the development projects. So I think, to me now, because the decision makers are the ones which will, or the politicians are the ones which will release the funds, we have to sensitize them to make sure they understand, so that when we talk about nutrition there.
Thank you. I congratulate Dr. Mamiro for the very impressive presentation. So, well, I have always believed that for us to attain the goals we want, we have to attain a critical mass of, really nutritionists out there in each country and possibly the region. And that is the challenge we do have. So we need to mobilize more resources, honestly, getting to more people, as you have clearly shown. We need to mobilize more resources to getting people to work in the nutrition and the other subsectors that are related. So my question is, now we have been sadly told that NTM is possibly not there anymore. They have been fatigued in terms of funding it. What is your view in terms of a possibility for us to convince, there are people also who have money in Africa, people like Baresa, people like Dangote. Any ideas as to how we can make this seed which is dying in Belgium to germinate in Africa?
I think I stand on what I've been talking about. Even the Bakresa, the big guys who have money in Tanzania, you have to really convince them. They produce a lot of food products, for example, but this is the products. But you have to also tell them about making sure that they sponsor even the people who also put nutrient levels in their labels. Okay. Because that is important. They look for us to do the analysis and put the labels in their food products, but they don't go a bit far. We have to make sure they understand the nutrition discipline and the benefits of nutrition. And therefore, I think if we convince them that way, and they might be willing to contribute to nutrition. But also, if we have big leaders like the president, if the president, sometimes when the president says about something, talks about something, then it becomes like, a directive, okay? Because you remember the former president before the current one, he also requested the Bakresa you're talking about to fortify some of the oils he's producing. And that was kind of a directive. Okay? So sometimes when you get these leaders on your way and you convince them, they talk about it, it becomes a directive. So we have to really, for us nutritionists in Tanzania, I think we have to struggle and get audience with this kind of leaders, get audience with these tycoons, so that now they can now understand us when we talk about nutrition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mamiro. My name is Juliana. I'm a PhD student at Ghent University and Nelson Mandela. And what I've noticed from both your presentation and that of the previous presenter, Professor Martin, is that you continued, after your PhD study, you kind of continued with what you are doing to carry on your career, to carry on different activities and different projects. So my question is just maybe an advice I would like to hear from you and him is that what kind of competences or skills enabled you to continue with afterwards, after your graduation? What enabled you to go further and to do the different work that you've been doing?
That's a very good question. Of course, you have to work as a team always. And at Sokoine University, we have a good team of nutritionists. Okay, we about 15 of us, and when we know competencies of each one of us. So if we decide, for example, to write a proposal, okay, like what we've presented on projects which we got funding, if we sit down, we know, for example, if Martin was in Sokoine, we know Martin is very good at methodology, okay? You tell him to write methodology. And then Peter is good at, the preamble, for example, or the budgeting, for example. So you use the abilities of each one of us to kind of do, for example, the proposals which we have been reading. So the experiences I got from, as you said, made me to get into this particular team and deliver my abilities along with my colleagues. Then we did one thing which we continued as a team to work on nutrition issues at Sokoine University. And of course, I would say these were just few examples, but we have been, at least we were very successful. But this was, the Kickstarter was NTM. Thank you so much.